All right, I believe we are live. Give me a second to just get my stuff together here. All right, this is the one I can see in real time. Okay, I'm just checking everything here. Okay, so we've got a little bit of light going on here. Toilet paper for blowing my nose. I'm normal human. All right. Okay. Let me turn this down over here. Yeah, okay. It's easier for me to not play it over there, but I can see your comments. Actually, let me make sure I can see your comments. Turn down the volume. Okay, so welcome. I am Tigress Sydney Acute McDaniel, and this is Evolve Weekly. In fact, this is a 52-week series on how to implement a more perfect union. All right, let me make sure that we didn't lose anyone. Okay, I don't believe we lost anyone. Okay, still live here, still live there. I can still see comments. Okay, here we go. So today we will be discussing Kentucky. We're headed on over to Kentucky. All right, and I will also bring to your attention the commissioner that I mentioned to you before. The conduct of some of our elected officials, is not conducive for leadership. And instead, it shows just how far detached they are from the consensus of American citizens, and even how detached they are from reality. A lot of them have this inflated sense of immunity, sweeping immunity, and they know this privilege, if you will, because of the inundation of corruption in our government, city, statewide, and nationwide. And so it's got to come to an end. The only way that we can get this, and I guess I need to sit over here a little bit because of the light there. The only way that we're going to be able to really get this under control is we have to do it together. One politician, one person with a positive attitude, one go-getter is just not enough. It can be fuel. It can be, that thing that, that catalyst that ignites us to action, but we have to come together. And we must not fizzle out. We must come together in such a way that we are committed to this newly adopted mindset and culture for America, that it cannot be deteriorated, it cannot be divided, okay? And that's why I'm not a fan of the partisan system. As you see, it is too easy to pitch the partisan system against, with two antagonists, if you will, right? And it's very literary driven, if you will, disdainfully so, not in a good way at all. So you always have your protagonist and your antagonist, right? But now both the Democrats and Republicans are generally antagonistic. Yes, we have good guys. We know the Democratic side to be generally good, but you can tell that the confusion of voters is not just fleeting. It is something that is deeply wound into the fact that we don't know who to trust. We have seen Democrats corrupt their oath of office. We have seen Republicans corrupt their oath of office. We've also seen Democrats who've done amazing things. And equally, we've seen Republicans stand up for what's right. And that is very antagonistic driven. So there really is, yes, we can say that generally speaking, the Democratic Party is the party that is generally on the right side of justice. Of course, that's one of our assumptions. But nowadays, it's more, it's so antagonistic driven. And the misinformation and disinformation, and miss being, by mistake, dis being intended, like I'm going to stir up some lines intentionally, and this is why we don't really have a clear protagonist, because when you have a clear protagonist, then you rally behind the good guys, right? So it's that dipolar, aspect of it all, this the good versus evil, protagonist versus antagonist, Republican versus Democrat, white versus black, da 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 da. And it just does not serve us well at all. It doesn't, because especially now, that's why a lot of people are electing to be independent. And that does really make it difficult voting wise, as far as who appears on your ballot for how you elect and designate with your Board of Elections. All right, so before I continue on, we're going to start with our affirmation. May I further enlarge our collective and individual understanding and enlightenment on the subject matter we will discuss, and may I not further divide. All right, so let's head on over to Kentucky. Okay. All right, and all I did was type in Kentucky statutes, nothing fancy at all. Here are your legislators right there. Now, I have lived in this state. Some of you are aware that I lived in Louisville, Kentucky, when I was studying at the University of Louisville. And so I am familiar generally with the statutes of that state. It is something that I encourage you all to do whenever you move to a new region, a new state, a new city. And that's why I said region initially, because maybe you move to a new state. You move to a new state, you inseparably need to read their laws, okay? Even if you just hire a lawyer, and I'm not sure if they have this service. They should. I'm not a licensed attorney, so I don't know that aspect of it particularly. But I am a student, so I'm going to ask about that. So what I'm referring to is whether or not there is like a crash course that maybe is headed up by licensed attorneys or non-corrupt judges. We would hope it was no corrupt officials, right? But maybe judges and paralegals, where they give you this crash course in the state's most important laws. And I hate to say most important laws, but the laws that would really, really matter for everyday people. I know that they should have, I know they have something similar to that for vocational education, for education generally, higher and otherwise, and for businesses, because they normally do that within their own SBA branches or their own small business charter, things of that nature, right? But I don't know. That would be very, very wonderful. In fact, I would be a huge proponent for that. I've been a proponent for many, many years of legal education back into the high schools. I understand that it was scantily offered in high schools. To what extent, I'm not sure, because it was not offered expressly in my high school. It wasn't even offered in the vocational center that we had to take, like AP courses or courses that would not normally be offered in the high school, the traditional high schools, like astronomy. I took astronomy in our Weaver education program. I guess you would call it something similar to a magnet school, I reckon. But nonetheless, there should be that. Now, if you move from one city to another city within that state, I would say I would still encourage you to be familiar with the laws of that city. But if, you know, it's a lot more important if you know the laws of the land if you move from state to state, because that's where the laws really, really can be like night and day. You know what I mean? From one state to another. All right. So again, I'm generally familiar with the legislation here in Kentucky. Now, I have not lived there in, my God, 14 years, 14, 16, so it's 2021. I lived there in 2004, 2005. So, 15 years. Wow, it's been a long time. So that's a long time for legislation to change. And what I'm getting at is that is the norm on how new laws are enacted or repealed. So there may definitely be some changes here. I did notice that they don't seem to have the vocational education aspect in their law that I recall when I was teaching performing arts there. And you could become a certified instructor there. And so I have the certification there. I live near an airport. I do. I think it's indicative by the sounds. Enjoy. You're welcome. Okay, so let's go ahead and get here. Let me check over here, make sure. Give me a second. I want to make sure that we're still good. I think I'm, what, no. Hold on. Give me 1 second. I want to make sure that I haven't lost. Whew, okay. All right. So we are still here. Okay. My bad. All right. Let's go back here. I think I'm, no. Hold on. Give me 1 second. I want to make sure that. Okay. And I want to make sure that I can actually see any of your comments as well. So I'm being very intentional about that. All right, let's go to Kentucky. Okay. All right, so legislators and our assumptions. We know our assumptions are Democrats are generally going to be on the right side of justice. And Republicans are generally not on the right side of justice, not generally part of the consensus of Americans who are on the right side of justice. And this is how we're doing this kind of analysis of each state's body of legislators. We are trying to identify the culture of each state's legislative body and therefrom draw conclusions on how we can change that culture of each state, especially those states that don't appear to be on the right side of justice, to better match the consensus of us all, right? I would hope at this point, even though we know that there are some that are not, we're familiar with that. We got that. We're not focusing on that aspect directly. We're focusing on that aspect indirectly. The aspect is those in America who are still promoting a racist agenda. Okay. It appears that we cannot reach their heart. We've tried for years. My ancestors tried, slave ancestors tried. We hear all the stories of many, many different eras of African Americans, diasporan people who just said, look, just take your foot off our neck, just give us, you know, honor the rights that we now have, that you're saying we have, and let's move forward. So, okay, over here, how we're going to focus on it indirectly and not directly is that we are not going to be talking about them incessantly. Instead, we're going to be resolve and solution oriented. We want to figure out how we can achieve this more perfect union. And hopefully maybe eventually they'll see and get on board. I don't know, but we've tried it this way. It's not working that way. So we need to go this way. That is how I believe we will be able to realize the change that we want. Okay, so let's go to the Senate. And this is pretty cool. I do remember this vaguely, but I do remember. So we haven't seen a state yet that gives us by county. I think that's awesome because it helps. Now, yes, most Board of Elections, let me show you, you can look up your voter lookup. And you can look up your information to determine to determine what districts you must vote in, quote unquote. All right, let me see. I've never done it this way. I always do it through the county. So let's just do it this way. Let's do it in real time so that you can see many different ways on how you can check your registration office. Oh, it is. Oh, well, look, it's telling us to go to the election office. I was like, that's interesting. I wonder if you could do that from here. Yeah, because I was going to say that would be a huge database for them to have to take care of. I can imagine them doing it, but okay. So you would go to your county Board of Elections, as I said. So we're going to do Mecklenburg County Board of Elections. You can also do it for your state. Voter information, you see that there. So there's the mecnc.gov/BOE, Board of Elections, voter information. And my information is already public knowledge, so there's no point in trying to somehow hide it. Let's check my voter registration. Let's make sure it's up to date. We're going to put in Tigress, McDaniel. And that's pretty much like I'm the only one. Yeah, I'm the only one. So we're just going to hit enter. Now, if your name is more common, then you probably want to pull it up. All right, so see, we have active, right? Boom and boom in Mecklenburg County. Jurisdictions. All right. Okay. For me, I'm precinct 228. Okay. Then congressional district is 12, like I was telling you before. Yay, we have Dr. Alma Adams as our representative. It's such an easy vote. It's like the easiest decision to make each year. 39, which is, oh goodness, we have a wonderful new young lady in the Senate. I believe she represents both the Latin and the the Afro-Latina community. Let me just get her name real quick. I feel bad for not knowing her name, but I don't. I do, but I don't right at the moment. I can't recall it. Senate. DeAndrea Salvador. I'll show you her. And of course, we could go to the North Carolina Legislature website, but I'm just going to pull up her page. Salvador for North Carolina. So glad she's there. Yes. Okay. Now, and so she brings so much to the table as far as her focus. She is a Democrat, and there you have it. Okay. So let's go back here. All right. Then my House district would be 92. Superior Court 26D, and on and on and on. Prosecutorial 26. We have a wonderful prosecutor here. He is ethically driven. Board of Commissioners, my district is 2. Of course, municipality is Charlotte. And then my ward is District 3, and then school board District 2. This is how you can look it up. I just wanted to show you in real time mine. Boom, and there you have it. Okay, so now come out of these, and actually I'll show you his picture as well, since I mentioned it. I just can't think of everybody's names off the top of my head right now. I just can't, and I'm not even going to try. Spencer, why? Of course, Spencer. Oh goodness, Spencer Merriweather. Oh goodness, I'm so sorry that I couldn't place your name right now. It's been a long year for it. Oh, it's been a long year. He is very much so ethically driven. He really has a special interest in enfranchisement as opposed to disenfranchisement with regards to African American and other minorities in this area, young men especially, who find themselves in the web of the criminal justice system. He takes it very seriously. Okay, so now let's move forward, because we're not in Kentucky. We are in, we're not in North Carolina, we're in Kentucky. Let's go here. And if you have any input or any questions, please do let me know. Let me make sure. I don't see anything. Okay. All righty. Okay, so we're going to close these tabs so I don't get confused. Now, it is worth discussing the Kentucky's prosecutor or attorney general, not prosecutor. So we'll go. So many names. Oh, so many names. Daniel, no, hold on. Okay, yes, Daniel Cameron. Now he is a Republican, as I understand it. And I have explained to you my viewpoints as it relates to his decision on the Breonna Taylor case, and I will reiterate them right now. What we've seen thus far is not sufficient information for us all to believe that he is not on the right side of justice. And I know that that is not a popular opinion, but understand that I am on the right side of justice. So you can trust me when I say this, and understand now my analysis that comes along with it. Only on the basis of what we've seen. I've not had opportunity to find out more about his track record. It's kind of it's a bit of a up and down issue, the same as Kamala Harris. And my concerns are equally there. The problem exists is that even if you're on the right side of justice, when you assume a position such as state prosecutor or attorney general, they are there technically for the best interest of the state as well, okay? Especially the state prosecutor, even more so. The attorney general, however, has a fiduciary duty as it relates to the population of the state for which he serves, okay? He has that fiduciary duty for consumer rights and protection. He has that, like if you buy a car and you get swindled or whatever, you can take up a consumer complaint with your attorney general. At a hospital, the consumer complaints can be just nearly filed against any type of merchant, and a hospital would be a merchant in one regard, okay? Anything that would allow for a resolution outside of court, or sometimes administratively, you're required to go through some type of resolution process, albeit mediation, arbitration, or something to that effect, to show that you've exhausted all other forms of remedy, and now you need to move the court to effect your relief. Okay, so Daniel's decision, when you're in this position, there's a lot, there's so many working parts here. And the conflict of interest, it's a dance, much like what Nancy Pelosi has to do as Speaker of the House, okay? And where it is completely sickening that, and hold on, because it's gonna take me, it's gonna take me about, I say 5 minutes, so let me just reach out to you right now, okay? So where he has the authority, you know, in this bill of indictment, right? This process and this grand jury and this consideration, right, of whether or not to move forward with criminal charges against the officers, right? And then finding that the legislation does not allow for, because remember, if you watched any of my previous lives prior to me starting the 52-week series, I did 3 different live sessions on Breonna Taylor. So we won't go into detail. I will ask you to please lovingly go back and check those. They're all titled accordingly. And so basically, he was effectively between a rock and a hard place. As a law school student, it is very interesting, the dynamic of elements for constituting a crime. And that just means that, okay, elements, I told you there was this if-then scenario, if-then, T-H-E-N scenario. So if all elements are met, then you can move forward and prosecute a crime, right? So, and you get what I'm saying? I don't want to use, because there's so many different ways to say this, and there's a proper way to, you know, say it the way that, you know, your law school professors want you to communicate this. But basically, if all elements are met, then you have a crime and we can prosecute, okay? Well, in the case with Breonna Taylor's murderers, yes, I said murderers, the issue comes into play is that they were in uniform, in active duty. And I'm saying in uniform and in active duty for a reason. Because the situation where I want to say her name was Melissa with Botham Jean, she was off duty. She was in her uniform, and that's why she tried, or they, you know, her her representation at one point tried to pull that card like, oh, well, she gets immunity because she was on duty. No, she was off duty. And that's why it was easier to prosecute her, okay? Because the immunity that comes along with being on duty is effectually absolute. Because it's one of those elements. One of these elements that you can't have the authority to detain, or you can't have the authority to take the action that you did. You cannot be on duty. It's really written into the laws. Well, that element was not met. Do you see? Because that element is core to whether or not one can be prosecuted. This is why he instead moved for, in my strong opinion, this is why when you do the analysis, this is why it would make perfect sense that he would move for instead that reckless endangerment and damage to property. And it pisses us off because when we first see it, the first thing we think, are you kidding me? You mean you can't, hold on, friend. You're telling me that we can't, you can't prosecute him for shooting Breonna Taylor, but you can prosecute him for the bullets that came out of his gun that caused damage to another person's house, a neighbor's house, that did not result in a murder. Well, that you got the definition of murder, and then you have the definition of the crime that he was able to prosecute. To me, that signifies, as someone who is more knowledgeable of law, that signifies very, very pointedly that he saw some issue with the police officer's behavior. And his hands were tied by the legislation in place. And he was not going to let him off, you see, because if he didn't care, there would be no charges. We'd see none, because he can very easily do that, because the charge that was on the table is the charge that really only matters when you go before this grand jury, when you're having this type of hearing. It's not the time to kind of like, oh, at the last minute, let me throw all these other possible crimes in here and kind of stack the deck and see what sticks. That's not the time to do it. It can be frowned upon by the presiding judge. So he really pushed his authority to the limits, is what I'm getting at. Okay. And this is relevant for Kentucky. So right now, I must say, I don't see anything that is alarming, except for the fact that I keep saying that what has to change is legislation. Legislation must change. And unfortunately, as I mentioned in previous lives, Ayanna Pressley, our representative, she's done a wonderful job. So many people have talked a good game and no one has done it. And I've explained to you why I haven't done it. I feel that, especially with all the backlash that I receive as I run for office and call out the corruption, anything that I present as someone who is not yet a licensed attorney, they take every opportunity to shut that down. So I'm not a licensed attorney yet, and I'm not an elected official yet. So every time I throw anything into the ring, they smash it, or they do a smear campaign. And too many of you believe the smear campaign, and then it's dead in the water. So I said, I've either got to be elected before I do this, or I need to be a licensed attorney before I do this. So that it's unfortunate, but it's the way that the world works. I can write a bill. Friends, I could write, I have bills that are in the making right now. Please understand, I have a folder, electronic folder for bills that I am currently composing. So no, and I said it in the last live, you can write a bill. Any one of us can. But everyone talked a good game, and who came out and did it? Our representative, Ayanna Pressley. And I appreciate her because she had to have known. There's no way she wouldn't have known, people. She knows that even though she's written this bill and presented it, introduced it to her peers in the federal legislature, it's been sitting since June 1st. That's June 1st last year. So we're coming up on a year that it's just literally been sitting there. Although it is a pressing topic all the time, it's just sitting there. And I know that Joe Biden and I know that Kamala Harris are working on 8 million trillion things because they're basically having to do a lot of cleanup. But this is what I'm getting at. Here's the issue. You see what I mean? So these are the things that have to change, folks. We have to, and we have to do it together. We need to be rallying behind someone like, Representative Ayanna Pressley. They exist. These individuals exist in every city, every state, every county, every town. Trust me, I know you have them there. Please have them get in contact with me so we can become the transformer movement that we need to be to bring about a more perfect union, because legislation can be changed. And I showed you that very clearly in our last live session, okay? It's not this fathomless thing. It can be done and we can do it. All right, so let's go back. All right, so that covers Attorney General Daniel Cameron for Kentucky. Now let's hop on over to our legislative. All right, and like I said, the county is important, and I like the fact that they offer this because it makes it user-friendly. You may not want to hop over to the Board of Elections, figure out what your district is, and then hop over to back over to the state legislature website and then look for your district. You may just want to say, okay, well, I happen to know that Jefferson County is for Louisville. That's where I used to live, right? So let's just go to Jefferson County. We're just doing this initially, and then we'll go ahead and do the tally of them all. Does it go immediately or no? Did it change? Oh yeah, it did change. Okay, so there we have it. All right, so that was pretty seamless. Okay. Now, again, you have the county, but you still have breakdowns in this big metropolis. So, but at least this gives you an idea, okay? And let's just get an idea right now for the culture of Jefferson County, Louisville. All right, so we have, let's do the Republicans first this go round. All right, instead of doing R and D, they actually have it completely out. All right, so Republican 2, 3, 4. All right, so it's 4 Republican and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Democrat. Okay, so the culture appears to be still yet neck and neck, 4 to 6, like I've proposed before, like I theorized is likely to be the case around the entire nation. This is why, in my strong opinion, we don't need to be this this divided to one extreme or the other, because that's what occurs for the partisan basis. Okay. I think we should just vote on the issues. I don't think that the partisan aspect helps us anymore. Now I'm going to backtrack a little bit because there's a caveat. Because I can already suspect that if we don't keep the partisan system, however, that Republicans, especially those who have a, divisive agenda, which is, as we see, they love to stick to their party in that regard. And they only have these one-off situations where someone will kind of still claim, they still rep the Republican Party. We've not seen any of them yet to say, well, you know what, I'm tired of this, I'm checking out, I'm going Democrat. And so they are loyal to their party. And that would cause a really big problem if they were to assume, this nonpartisan disposition and then basically bully individuals who are not on their side, and there's no party designation to kind of give them that support and that gumption behind them, then they would just succumb to the bullying of the Republicans and vote that way anyway. And then that would really subserve our intentions in having justice be served into perpetuity, like something that we shouldn't have to keep arguing over whether or not Black people have rights. We shouldn't have to keep arguing over whether or not police should not murder citizens. We should not have to keep having discussion about the fact that Native Americans have rights to their lands per the treaties. We shouldn't have to keep having arguments over whether or not women have rights to their own body. We shouldn't have, some of this stuff is just stupid in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like these are basal right. Okay, so, but 4 to 6 is not good. It's not good. All right, so now let's go. And we're gonna go to Senate members. And then we're gonna get to the commissioner and I'll give you like a brief, some brief information because it is a pending action. It's a lien, a Mechanicman's lien that I have on a building where we used to have our restaurant in Kentucky on 16th and Broadway. It was Flavors Restaurant and Lounge. And that restaurant and the mismanagement by the landlord for it is what gave rise to the Mechanicman's lien and the action to execute the lien. And now an attorney has a tax lien on the building, and basically without it qualifying or constituting fraudulent conveyance in one regard, which I'm concerned that maybe they've repealed some laws, which means get rid of. They've rid of laws that would protect my interests wholly. It seems to allow for tax liens to give someone opportunity to buy the building and then skate on satisfying the liens on the building. So the liens follow the deed, but it's never satisfied. And so that's basically it. And so the commissioner is upset because I am effective and I have been following the case and I have been litigating my interest in the case. And they have, I guess during the pandemic, thought, okay, well, we can pull some fast ones because, she's out of state anyway too. And, we can just do what we want to do. And they have not provided me with the final judgment. No monies have been paid out to me. No judgment has been sent to me that should have come from the court. I concur where it should not have necessarily come from the commissioner's office, but it should have come from the court. It should have come from the tax attorney who had the tax lien on the property. It should have come from them. And none of this, no one has given proper service. in full accordance with the law. And it is fraudulent conveyance, even if it doesn't constitute fraudulent conveyance for statutory purposes. So nonetheless, all right, let's do this number, and then I'm going to let you hear the phone call and let you get an idea of the type of individuals that we have to deal with that put on the front. And actually, they've gotten to the point where they no longer even put on the front. Hence hence where she would feel appropriate, where she would feel free, not appropriate, feel free to conduct herself in this manner in a professional regard. She's calling from her office, calling a priority lien holder, and this is how she, handles herself. So let's go ahead and do these numbers. Let me check and see if I have any questions. Okay, no questions. Please let me know if you have questions, if you have comments, all those things. Okay, let's see what we got. So there's 3 across. So let's do it that way so I can keep them in order. All right, so this is the Senate. We're doing Republicans first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. And I believe we already know. And the Senate is, effectually more powerful. Yeah, all right. So 30. Now let's do the Democrats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I am glad to see that all of those who are of African American heritage, they do represent the Democratic Party. I am interested. I'm going to look up District 33. I just don't know. I don't know what it is. So I guess I can't look it up that way. So let's go Senate members by district. And I don't know if you saw me do that. Let me go back so that we make sure. So I just came right here. By name, by district, by county. Boom. So I go by district. I'm just curious. All right. So this is really, really good. I like that they did this. Whoever came up with this idea, this is also very smart. Some of you know that I study web design and coding. And so whoever their designer is in IT, kudos for actually allowing for the pop-up of a picture when you hover over one of the legislators' names so that you can, confirm this is who you're looking for. This definitely helps out a lot. But we're just going to go to 33. Okay, it says, okay, so he is, 33 is part of Jefferson. So that is Louisville. Very interesting. We have a little bit of time, so let me go. Because it doesn't take a long time to get through these. And as you see, there's so much that can be discussed, just so much. All right, let me go back. Because there was only 3 of them. 13, let me get the other one. 13 and I thought it was 3, so it's only 2. Good gracious. Goodness. All right, yes, only 3. Goodness. I'm sorry, only 2. So District 13 and District 33. 13 has to be Fayette. I'm not familiar with Fayette. Let's look up the city for that. I'm not really sure. He's a Kappa. Very interesting. Okay, so let's see. All right, Fayette County, Kentucky. Fayette County is located in the central part of the U.S. state of Kentucky. Lexington. Oh, okay. All right. So yeah, Lexington is Lexington is not too far. Most people know about Lexington and they know about Louisville. Frankfurt, I believe, is the capital. Let me confirm that, and then I'm pretty sure Frankfurt is the capital. Yeah, Frankfurt is the capital, but Lexington, yeah, and that is his home city, which we could have found there. Okay, so that's the Senate. Let's do House. And again, you can go by county. We have no need to do that right now. So we're going to go Republican first again. Next session, we'll go Democrats first. I'm just going back and forth so that when I finish, when we round this out, no one will be able to attack the validity of our findings on the basis that we had this, this unmitigated, uncontrolled, bias for the Democratic Party. Yes, generally, if you follow me, you generally are a Democrat or you're considering very strongly changing your status from Republican to Democrat or independent to Democrat. So, hey, there's some truth to it, but not to our own demise. Like, we're going to make this an objective study and then move forward with our petition on how to implement the strategic plan that we are going to develop for this more perfect union. Yeah, I'm not playing. I'm not playing. Okay, so here we go. Republican. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, good God, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68. I think I know Nancy Tate. Seems familiar. So 67, 68, 69. I hope I said that right. It's thereabouts. 70, 71, 72, 73. Oops, sorry. 74. Okay, so that's 74 Republicans. And we already knew this. I believe I mentioned it to you before that Kentucky is generally a red state. We know that. Okay. And this is going to be one of those states that's not going to be neck and neck because the Democratic parties, the Democratic Party's candidates for these offices have been really trying to flip the state, quote unquote, flip the counties, flip the state, flip the cities. And a lot of you know what these terms mean. Flipping just means changing it from, it's very self-explanatory, changing it from Republican, which is the red, to blue, which is Democrat. And that's it. All right, so then let's count Democrat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. 22 to 70. And then the Senate was 30 Republicans to 6 Democrats. So this is going to be a state of interest. It's been a state of interest as it relates to Breonna Taylor, but it is a state of interest. It's also a Commonwealth state. Let's look up what that means. And I just typed in, what does Commonwealth state mean? Okay. We could use Wikipedia, but let's go. Let's go to the good old dictionary. Some of you know this story. My mother bought me a big red dictionary, and I really, have been so proud of that dictionary. I bought my son one when he was younger, and he still has it in his room. Give your children the gift of enlightenment, the gift of knowledge. Even where you may not know all things, and of course we're not going to know all things, but where you feel like you are capable, or maybe not as capable, of teaching your children certain things, giving them access, the gift of access, the gift of yes, you can, the permission, which is a gift, the gift of permission to explore and to read and do so without limits. Okay. So what's the difference between a commonwealth and a state? Are Kentucky, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, and Virginia all that different from the rest? There are 4 states in the United States that call themselves commonwealths: Kentucky, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. The distinction is in name alone. The commonwealths are just like any other state in their politics and laws, and there is no difference in their relationship to the nation as a whole. When used to refer to U.S. states, there is no difference between a state and a commonwealth again, okay? Just in name alone. So why are they called commonwealths? We'll go through this very quickly. Where their constitutions simply deem them such, namesake, okay? According to one Commonwealth's website, Massachusetts, the one in which Webster is headquartered, the term Commonwealth was preferred by a number of political writers in the years leading up to 1780, when the Massachusetts Constitution officially designated the state as such. The preference is believed to have existed perhaps because there was some anti-monarchical sentiment in using the word Commonwealth. That notion might seem strange to those familiar with another use of the word Commonwealth. The Commonwealth with a capital C is an association of sovereign states consisting of Britain and a number of countries that were formerly under its rule. Membership in the Commonwealth is voluntary and not restricted to former colonies. Both Mozambique and Rwanda, the 2 most recent members to join, are members despite having no historical tie to the British Empire. In addition to Kentucky, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, and Virginia, the United States has 2 other commonwealths: Puerto Rico, a lot of you are not aware of that, and the Northern Mariana Islands. but they are of a different kind. They are not states and have only a non-voting representative in Congress. While residents of these islands have U.S. citizenship, they pay no federal income taxes, though they do pay other kinds of federal taxes. Okay, so there's a lot to this constitutional law, but how I wish to interject here. Growing up, the Commonwealth states have always had a stigma that goes along with them that does seem to be consistent with the general underpinning, the general philosophy of thought that the British Empire perpetuates. And that is classification, that is status quo, that is disenfranchisement of those in lower socioeconomic demographics, degradation and disenfranchisement of those who are minorities. And if you have had this similar experience, please let me know. But it has been the general experience that I have known and that my friends and family have known as diasporan people. So please do let me know how you feel about that. I'd love to hear your input. But it's very interesting that it's only in namesake. But we know that there's a lot more to some of these things. I'll dive into it some more and see what I can dig up for our next session. Because, you know, it's the same as the 3/5 clause, where there was so much confusion. And then you very simply sometimes just look up, just do a very brief keyword search in Lexis and find cases that are relative to the same. And then you get the opinion of at least the judicial branch for whatever state, you know, of interest, you know, for these commonwealths. And then you get an idea of how it was perceived and how it was interpreted over time, you know? So it would be very interesting. I'll make myself a note. All right, now, good gracious, tongue-tied today. All right, now let me play. Yeah, it's great. I'm gonna play this for you. Let me check and see if anybody has any questions. I see no questions, no comments. Okay. All right, so, and this was only now, maybe 2 weeks ago. Very, very disappointing, but unfortunately not surprising. Okay, not surprising at all. And the biggest issue here is, let's be very clear about it. For these type of positions, the commissioners are appointed generally, because the commissioner of agriculture here is elected. You can run for that office, but and let me pull this up as well before I go. Let me do this so that you have what you all love to call receipts. We call them receipts, right? They're receipts now, or proof, evidence. All right, so let's go back to sharing my screen really quickly so that you see that it's not just, you know, not a bunch of talk. Okay, so we're gonna go over here. I'm gonna do Jefferson County Clerk. All right, so what we're looking for, legal records. Hold on, this. Looking up deed. So 1 second. Online land records. Go to jeffersondeeds.com. I'm going to search by party name. Okay. Bobby Holsclaw is the Jefferson County Clerk. And I'll show you the commissioner here in 1 second. So we're going to go by party name. Again, you've seen I've done this before. My name pops up right there. Go ahead and do that. All instruments. Okay. All right. I'm going to check all. All right. And then you see this here. We're going to go to the Mechanicman's lien. Some of you are aware of this. This has to do with the criminal action that I faced in 2006. And I actually was on a weekend trip to Atlantic City, and we got pulled over for the toll. There was a toll area. And when they check everything and they check your license, I was wanted in Kentucky. And that's not funny now. I mean, it wasn't funny then. I can nervously laugh about it now because that is long behind me. But this is what that whole, oh, she's a felon. This is what this all stems from. And now you all generally know the truth. Feel free to ask me any questions that you want to ask me about that situation. All right, so that's where that is. And you see my name listed is Tigress McDaniel. All right, so this is the lien though. This is what's of importance. Let's go to let's view it. And this was in 2006, hence the civil records for 2006. The full lien estimated value $53,270, right? Okay. With interest and everything that I was going for, $187,117.61. And of course, in my name and against the property owner at the time, so that you just see the proof there, the details. We'll go here. Verified, nothing has been paid on it, as you see. And then we're going to go to the commissioner's office really quickly. All right. I feel like I've gone to the wrong place. They have so much. All right, Jefferson County Master Commissioner. Right here, property sales. Sometimes I don't. Let me do that. Right there. All right, so Carole Schneider, Master Commissioner. Past results, just so you can see. Okay, This was in 2019. I'm just going to save it for the interest of being able to pull it up here. Yeah, well, it's pulling it up now. Okay. And I should be able to, because it's a 19 case. And that one was withdrawn. That's not mine. But this is also a good way for you to be able to familiarize yourself with this process. I know some of you are interested in tax liens. You need to be mindful of any pre-existing liens on property. Okay. We'll get to it here. It's so much to see. Okay. I used to know the number of it, but I do not. I know the case number, of course, but that's not going to help us. And it was sold for $8,000 of all things. And of course, that does not satisfy my lien. And I may not be able to readily get to it right now, but this is the point that I'm making. So you can look up these things, find them in past sales. All right. Okay, and so this is what this has to do with. Let me see if I can just pull it up easily here. It may be just easier to pull it up this way. So let me stop share for just 1 second. Give me 1 second, I'll pull it up. And then we'll wrap up today. Okay, so let me share my screen with you once more here. All right. All right, and so this is what I'm referring to. So this was placed in 2009, and see. This is the original mortgage. And it just shows you, you know, that which I've had to deal with as it relates to this matter. This is the full lien, the original lien, which, you know, stipulates everything. And surprised at. Maybe I have to go back to here. I don't know why it's not giving me what I really need. Let me try this one more time and then we'll just move forward. Let me see what it says. Okay. Here we go. I just, I should have rolled down. I just, you know, sometimes, remember I'm doing this live, friends. Okay. All right. So this, of course, as you see, if you were paying attention, this is the new case right here. Okay. And this is the designation of the entire lot of land. And you'll see that I am an interested party. A lot of these other individuals who are named are either entities that are no longer in existence or they no longer have any interest that they can avail in the property. So Nebraska Alliance Realty is the company who applied the tax lien under Higgins, I believe his name is Jerry Higgins, out of Kentucky. And of course, they put a lis pendens, which just means, hey, we intend to enforce this lien. That's that notice. And it shows, you know, on the property and shows when it was done, January 23rd, 2019. And you see that I am listed right here, circle right there, Hands Free Enterprises and Tigress McDaniel. Now, of course, the United States Department of Treasury, the Internal Revenue Service, and the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and the Department of Revenue, they have the tax lien definitely supersedes my lien. But outside of that, of course, my lien would be priority. And basically, that's all they were doing. Like we're not touching anything else. We're just satisfying. We're handling all this stuff for us, not for you. And it's like, you gotta be kidding. You gotta be kidding me. And this is the person who purchased it. Cloud is his last name, Gregory Eugene. Cloud purchased it for $8,000. So, you know, thereby he gets ownership. The deed now reflects that it's been transferred to him, but notwithstanding, of course, the interest of my lien, because of course my lien has not been released. And yeah, it's so interesting, but here you go. So, and this will be the last thing we do, and then we will close for the day. All right, so and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day because it's just beautiful. And again, her name is Carole Schneider. And this is what I was getting at. These individuals, they are appointed. Remember, I don't forget anything. The sparks, the neurological synapse activity is on point. Okay. So I stopped my thought before when I was going to say to you that these individuals are appointed and not elected. And she actually makes it a point to, you know, remind me that she was appointed by, you know, these circuit court judges, and the circuit court is, you know, a high court. and a court with a high reputation in Louisville. So you're going to hear me get frustrated because I was in a phone call with her and she hung up on me. And then this is me calling back.
Supposed to be a commissioner, so why are you talking over me? Act like someone who is in that position. Huh?
Right. You fucking liars. Fucking liars. Exactly. And me saying exactly is basically me saying, okay, well, so she hung up.
On, okay? Right. This is her hanging up again.
She hung up again.
Nothing wrong, then why keep hanging up if you've done nothing wrong?
You can't really see it based on the light, sorry, but
exactly. Why keep hanging up if you've done nothing wrong? Huh? What is it? You're acting like a child. You're acting like a child, and I'm recording you so that the public will know that you have got to get out of office. Right. What for? What for when you're all corrupt? If you're all going to act like this, then it's corruption on top of corruption. They're going to love to hear about this. Black Twitter and everyone who supports Black Lives Matter is going to love to hear that Carole Schneider thought it was appropriate. This is the commissioner, for everyone who will be listening to this, this is the commissioner who is yelling at me as it relates to a fraudulent conveyance on a lien that they have proceeded upon with a tax lien certificate on the same street as it relates to Breonna Taylor, as it relates specifically to Breonna Taylor. This is what they're doing. Listen to her. Listen to her. Right, exactly.
And you see she hung up again. And at this point, I'm trying to remember, I don't think she answers again.
And she hung up again, as you said, and I'm calling her back. This is what we have to deal with. This is why I told you all, they are only people. They are not, just because they get that title does not mean that they are professionals.
Thank you.
And so this is me just leaving a message.
When you have finished recording, hang up or press pound for more options.
I was so appalled because I actually just called. My only purpose in contacting her office was to just get the final, not final, since I had heard nothing since this past March. And we all remember that being the first time there was an actual stay-at-home order. And so I had submitted documents, filings, pleadings, they're called all these things, to affirm to the court that I was available by Zoom, I was available by phone call, I was available by any other suitable remote method so that I could participate in any hearings, because there was an upcoming, there was consideration on an upcoming hearing on the other party's motions. So George Cloud, or Gregory Eugene Cloud, who made the bid on the property, evidently felt like he needed to lawyer up. Okay, fine, wonderful. You need to lawyer up to evade a tax, to evade a Mechanicman's lien. Oh, interesting. Okay, so that means that either they've repealed something that binds my priority lien, or maybe there's something that I'm not understanding. Maybe, hey, it's all possible, but I'm going to get to the bottom of it, because what I do understand, what is very clear, is that they are all aware of my interests. And so all I was doing was calling to find out what is the status, because I've received nothing from the court, and having received nothing from the court and believing the court to generally just handle clerk matters pretty, objectively, like you're just sending me a copy. Like that's like basal, that's stupid basal. So since I hadn't received anything, I'm like, okay, well, let me reach out to the commissioner's office and see if there's been a final payment. And they're telling me, well, we haven't received any more money. So I'm just confused. It's very confusing. I don't know what's going on, to be completely honest. I have no clue. So she's telling me there is no additional payment because there's a certain amount that, you know, like he made the bid of $8,000, but he only put down a portion of that amount to secure his bid. You know, when you have to put down an amount to even bid on property or bid, you know, when you go to an auction. So I was awaiting these steps because if nothing had happened in the courthouse and yet there was a full payment from Gregory Cloud, then I could surmise I could even deduce that there have been some other actions in the court. I don't have any of this information. And me just calling for that simply and nothing else is what she's responding to. That's her attitude and how she decided to respond. I hadn't even accused her of doing anything fraudulent or having any type of unclean hands at the point of my phone call when I had to request from the treasurer's office or the treasury department or their treasurer, the finance department, if you will, for her to just give me a call back. She called me back on the nonsense. We all know that a guilty mind does what? Bark first, right? So, guys, and this was just regular stuff. This is just like regular, I'm handling my own personal business. This is not even like political things. And not to mention the express fact that it has been brought to my attention, which I had already been concerned about, that area has always been a very disdainfully, politically, and racially charged area. In fact, that designation, that street designation, 16th and Broadway, I remember when I first moved there, someone from the community, the African American community, warned me that that it has been considered and longstanding for that area that any if you go past 16th Street, 16th and beyond that is considered the Black side of town, and everything else is the white side of town. And that there had been this, you know, this almost like this war on one of them going this way and gaining more property, you know, toward downtown, 4th Street and up, and then equally, you know, the predominant, I guess, white and racist group trying to gain property that way. I don't know how much this has to do with Breonna Taylor, but I do know that it has to do with the property surrounding it, and the property rights and control is definitely central to Breonna Taylor's boyfriend's matters and some other things. And there was a TikTok done about it. I know TikTok is not always necessarily verifiable, but it really did catch my attention when I stumbled across it. It was actually in my FYP. And I was just like, wow, that's a little jarring, because I'm like, yeah, I know that because that's where my building is. So next time I'll make a little note for myself, I'll pull up that TikTok and I'll show you so that you'll understand what I'm referring to. I don't know all the ins and outs and how, you know, specifically it relates and to what extent, but I know that they're related. So it's just very interesting. Just please understand that where there is commerce and where there is corruption, not far behind is politics. So, all right. Well, I am Tigress Sydney Acute McDaniel. Thank you for rocking it out with me. We've been online for 1 hour and 30 minutes. I hope that you have been further enlarged in your understanding and awareness on the subject matter that we're discussing. And we're going to go to the Commonwealth of Virginia next. So I'll see you next week. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Stay on the right side of justice.